Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We do appreciate everyone who listens in and shares the episode and tells their friends. And we love that you are learning something new, whether it be significant or small, about the rules of golf. We do appreciate you taking the time to tune in. My name's Roscoe, your co-host, and sitting opposite, alongside the Blakey, the Blake man, Blakester. I don't know. We'll go with Blakey today. That'll do. The golf rules guru himself. How are you, Blakey?
Yeah, going really well, Roscoe. I was thinking I'll try and change it up and not go with going really well, Roscoe, but fell into that same trap of saying that again. But everything's going pretty good. Played golf on the weekend, so had to make sure I was playing by the rules, of course, although I wasn't handing in a card. So some would say it wouldn't really matter, but it's still golf to me. So try and play by the rules every time I play.
Okay, well, we might come back and talk about your round of golf. I also had a round of golf last week myself. So, it was very good. Now, we've got the rundown this week. Before you get into the rundown, you enjoying this podcasting gig? Yeah, what's this, episode 18?
Yeah, it's been really fun. We're looking at getting a different audience, or not so much a different audience, but a different way of engaging with the same audience and also a new audience. So I think that we've done a pretty good job on that aspect, Roscoe, and that's why we're going to keep going. And hopefully you're going to stick around and help me, because I don't think I could do this without you. Well, actually, I know that I wouldn't be able to do this without you, because it's actually a ton of work. It's, we've got our own jobs to do and our own passions. And as you said, playing golf as well ourselves. And then on top of that, we want to put this podcast together, and it is a lot more work than what I first thought. But don't fret out there, listeners, because it's still really enjoyable, and I'm very passionate about it. So it's going well.
Well, one thing I know is the listeners will tell us what they think, whether we are or are not doing a good job, and appreciate all the ones that have told us that they're enjoying it. But we do know that you do like to give us feedback, and we appreciate that, because it's what feeds our thoughts, what feeds the content, and what feeds what we talk about. So we do appreciate all the feedback. And today's episode is dedicated to quite a lot of that feedback. We've got some listeners' questions to go through. Of course, we've got the Golf Rules question of the week, or the GRQ.O.T.W, and you were going to give it a new name before there, Blakey. What were you going to call it? The
grid. I think that's Russian.
The GRQ. We were talking about anagrams and palindromes and all those other things that we were trying to work out what it actually was. It's just an abbreviation, the GRQ.O.T.W. We've got some listener questions, as we mentioned. Maybe a more complicated IVOR, but an IVOR nonetheless. Someone's picked up the guru himself, Blakey, on an IVOR on a technicality. It's a little serious IVOR, but as I said, it's an IVOR. We've got, of course, the background bingo to go through. Won't surprise you that a regular exponent of the background bingo has shone through again with the, in Eddie Maguire style, fastest finger first, with the dual correct answers. And we've got some new backgrounds up here that if you do jump across to the YouTube, the growing YouTube channel of Golf Rules Questions, the resource for all things golf rules, some wonderful videos, the production team, and it is a production team now. And thank you to Stuart, who's doing a wonderful job with the videos out there in listener land, who jumped on board and has helped Blakey really lift up the videos, and we're continuing to put a lot of effort into those as well. So that's a great resource. Jump across to YouTube, subscribe. That's the important part. When you go there, just hit the little button, subscribe, because that means a lot. Now, and then also, we're talking about the segments, but it wouldn't be the Golf Rules Questions podcast if we didn't talk about some golf rules and some golf rules information. And there seems to be a lot of discussion that pops up through the interwebs about, and just golf in general, about dropping the ball. Now, we know what dropping the ball is all about, but just the various situations that occur in relation to where to drop, how to drop, what's the correct place, and when do you drop and when do you place, and all that sort of thing. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that as the learning part of today's episode. But first, Blakey, let's go back to last week's Golf Rules question of the week.
Yeah, can you remember what last week's golf rules question of the week was, Roscoe?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, last week's golf rules questions of the week was, what happens if your longest club in the bag, except the putter, breaks? How do you measure a club length after that? Good question. What happens if the longest club in your bag, which is the driver, which is the one that you would traditionally measure distance for taking relief, what happens if it breaks?
Yeah, so you continue to use the length of that club as your club length. But if you do or are permitted to replace that club or add a club, then if the replaced or added club is now your longest club in the bag, except the putter, that becomes what defines a club length for your round.
Okay, so, and we are talking about for the purposes of taking relief. So you are taking relief, you need to measure one club length for your dropping area, and your driver's broken through, you fell on it, or you might have wrapped it over the back of your golf bag or something. I don't condone that behavior. But when you take a one club, you still need to use the longest club in your bag. And you say, are you saying that you have to sort of wedge it together and get your distance that way?
Yeah, spot on. So whatever that length was, if you need to, I mean, in determining a relief area, you don't actually, or even defining what the length of the depth of the teeing area is, you don't have to, as we all know, you don't have to use a club length. But if you want to try and get it dropping your ball or teeing your ball up in the extremity of the depth or length that you can use, then it's probably a better idea that you do measure the length with the longest club in the bag except the putter. Now, if it's broken, you just grab the two pieces and work out the area with those two pieces.
Why wouldn't you just go for? Why can't you just go for your 3-wood? Your driver's broken, the head, you've taken that. You've got the brace and bits, and it's in your bag somewhere, and you're faced with a $500, new Tour AD DI7 shaft a la Adam Scott, because that's what you want to do to rip your drives 260. Your driver's broken. Can't you just rip the 3-wood out and measure the one club length with that?
You certainly can use your 3-wood or any club to work out an estimate of what the relief area or the teeing area would be, but the actual measurement down to the millimeter is using the longest club in your bag except the putter. So again, if you were to say, what's a standard driver, 44, 45 inches, Roscoe?
47, 48 if you're Bryson DeChambeau.
So let's say 45. And what's a standard 3-wood? I'm guessing 42 or something like that.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yep.
Okay, so if you're a mathematician and you broke your driver, you weren't permitted to replace it under 4.1. So it's still the driver is your longest club in the bag, except your putter, and that's the club length, the definition of a club length. You could use your 3-wood to measure and then adding on an extra 3 inches. Okay, so you can use any other club to work it out, but to actually define what defines the depth or what defines the relief area is the specific length of that longest club in your bag except the putter.
So that becomes important if it's like you're considering stance and whether your stance is in the relief area or you've taken full relief and that sort of thing. Is that right?
Not so much about your like the club length, the relief area, about stance. That's more about what club you were going to use for the shot. So you're simulating what, say if you've got to hit it under trees, but you want to try and get relief by putting a wedge in your hand, but that's just an unreasonable stroke. Then you'd have to be trying to use your 3-iron or 4-iron. So that's sort of different to simulating the shot that you're wanting or going to play. Club length is specifically for that area on the ground, whether it be the relief area when taking relief, or whether it be in defining what the teeing area is.
Okay. All right. Well, that fairly much covers that up. And once again, another question that's not meant to be, well, was sort of a trick question, but not really. But there's obviously more than a couple of scenarios that can take place when you're thinking about when your longest club's broken. Now, listen.
Yeah, well, they're not common scenarios. How often does this happen? As you said, we don't condone anger. So how often does this happen? Probably one in 100,000 times. But if this ever does happen, now people will know if they listen to the podcast. No, sorry, you are listening to the podcast, so you'll know.
It's quite often that you see a broken shaft in a rubbish bin at a golf course if someone has had the misfortunate circumstances to break their club, whether purposely or accidentally. So it might pay you to keep the broken shaft in situ, and if you do need to get the maximum full length to get the maximum relief, who knows when it might benefit you by being able to measure the maximum. You need both bits in hand, golfers. There you go. Hey, so we've got a couple of listeners' questions to fire into. Webbo, shout out to Webbo over there in the UK. Thank you for your question. Probably came in a couple of weeks ago, a week or so ago. So we're just putting it into this episode because there's a lot to get through in every episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. But Webbo has come at us with, it's a long question, so I'll read this one. I can't memorize it.
Can you do it in a Yorkshire type accent? Or?
I will not do it in a Yorkshire accent because I do not want to. Webbo strikes me as one, being a rules interested person. He's fairly probably direct, much like yourself, Blakey. And I wouldn't mess with a Yorkshireman by taking off a Yorkshire accent. That's fating punishment greater than I can even think about caring about. So no, I won't. Not
well, I do bet. I bet you that I've got that totally wrong. He'll come back with that's an either because I'm not even a Yorkshireman. So I can't remember. I'm terrible. I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with geography. So
Webbo, if I'm sorry if I did get you as a Yorkshireman.
It wasn't your fault. That was completely my fault.
Lancashire, Yorkshire. I'm not sure what part of the north Webbo's from, but I think if I remember rightly, he's from the. One thing's for sure, he's going to tell us, and we'll find out. And I still won't be doing an accent.
Damn it,
Scottish accent as much as you'll get me on.
Well, you could try that one.
No, not today. I've already done it once today. There you go.
Hey, I love it.
Webbo, once again, hello Webbo, over there in the UK. Your question is player A hits his second shot to the green and is rolling nicely towards the hole. A dog suddenly runs onto the green before the ball was at rest and picks it up and runs off. It was a new Pro V1. Jeepers, do you want to get that back? The dog's owner recovers the ball and throws it back onto the green. Very nice. It comes to rest about 30 feet further away from where the dog had picked it up. How rude. What is the ruling and how should the player have proceeded? I have my thoughts and I know what exactly happened. So it's a real life situation. Webbo hasn't just dreamt this up and fired off a question. And we'll like your thoughts from the experts, please.
Yeah, there's some unruly dogs out there walking around golf courses.
Well, no, but as you know, just for a bit of listener information, if you're used to playing golf in the UK and very much so in Scotland, dogs are a welcome part of the golfing environment, and I support it wholeheartedly. There's nothing been more enjoyable for me, and I remember a couple of very specific times in Scotland playing at North Berwick and playing along. The whole name is called Perfection. It's one of the toughest, quirkiest par fours you'll ever play, and it finishes up near the water. Anyway, there's couples walking along there, as you're allowed to do. In Scotland, you have the freedom to roam, or the right to roam, and a couple walking there. I think it was a sort of miniature schnauzer, and I stopped, had a play, had a chat, and it was lovely. And it's just a nice environment for the dogs. The dogs out walking and sharing the course. They stay out of the way. except in Webbo's case, because the
Not this one. Well, maybe in Scotland, but not in England.
dog went rogue. But I wholeheartedly support dogs being allowed to be brought under the course as long as they're kept under control, and obviously things are kept clean. I had a wonderful round at a place called Dunfanaghy, which is in County Donegal, €14, looking at to the America sort of thing. And I played again with a Scotsman who was over there on holidays, and he brought his little dog. His dog, you know what his dog's name was? He was a Celtic fan. So I had to endure a round of golf with a Celtic fan, which wasn't actually that bad.
Sean?
No, it wasn't Sean. If you are listening in from Scotland and you are a Celtic fan, and you had a dog, there's probably many dogs called Henrik Larsson, number 7, very famous Swedish striker for, wasn't a striker, but player for Celtic and Sweden, Henrik Larsson. So I enjoyed a wonderful round with Henrik Larsson, but we digress, as we like to do, back to the dog stealing. I don't want to call a dog a mutt, but like if he stole your ball, Webbo might have let a few expletive go. I could imagine him letting a few of them go. What happens?
Right. So an outside influence, the dog is an outside influence, has stolen the ball that was in motion. You estimate the spot where the dog took the ball, and from that spot, you have either a 1 club length relief area. We talked about club length, relief area in which to drop, or if it's on the green, as it was in this case, the putting green of the hole you're playing, then you place it on that spot directly below where the dog took it, where the ball came to rest in the dog. And you can, and this is under 11.1, you can change your golf ball because you're taking that relief under exception 1 of 11.1.
So obviously you have to be COVID safe, and no, it's not been proven that you can catch COVID-19 from dogs. But if there is dog slobber on there, you're allowed, and you don't want to be part of the dog slobber, and there's a fair degree of chance that there is dog slobber on a ball that's feverishly taking after your ball in motion on the green, you can change your ball if you don't want to deal with a ball with dog slaver all over the ball. Yeah,
you can certainly clean your ball. There's 2 reasons that you'd be able to clean your ball in this question. 1, because the dog has it took it and it was in its mouth. It came to rest in the dog for a few seconds.
Is there another way to refer to it than coming into rest in the dog?
No, that's basically, if you look at the rules, the way the 11.1 is written, it says exception 1, when ball played from anywhere except putting green comes to rest on any person, animal, or moving outside influence. So I guess you could say on the dog, but it didn't. It came to rest in the dog's mouth.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, if the stroke was made from on the putting green, obviously you cancel and replace and replay, but this was made from off the putting green. Dog stole it when it was on the putting green, so it needs to be placed at that spot that the dog stole it.
Okay, well, if you're playing golf in Australia, and thanks for listening, if you are in Australia, it's probably unlikely that a dog's going to run out in your normal club play and steal your ball. Maybe a bird, same deal, I imagine.
Yep, same deal.
Plenty of crows stealing golf balls out there.
I'm not sure they steal them whilst they're in motion, though.
Yeah, no,
they steal them.
That was pretty good. Well, you can imagine that in your mind's eye, the dog running out, taking the dog. There you go. Hey, I'm taking now. Okay, good. That's answered. Check. Next question. The next question is from another favourite regular participant and contributor to the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Yes, it's Big P from Clubland. And Big P's anchored one in. So Anchor is where your podcast is hosted. And he's left us a question, which we'll come back to and answer it right after we play it.
Blakey, Roscoe, Big P from Clubland here. Standing on the 9th tee and big build-up of players on the par 3. Just wondering, what are the rules of practicing before you tee off on the next hole? I'd love to know what I can and can't do, because obviously the short game needs a bit of work. Thanks, boys. Bye. Blakey, Roscoe, Big
Great question there from Big P. And it sounds like he was phoning that in live. Like, it sounds like it was happening as the situation was occurring on course. So I think he was actually playing golf, which I love. I love the fact that someone can get onto Anchor and leave a live question as they're playing golf. Might not be able to answer the question, but I love the fact that someone can do that live. And if you do, would really appreciate that. Now, his question again, just to reframe: playing, build up on the tee, bit of a weight. Can he, chip at his buggy wheel, or can he just practice some short game in and around that teeing ground? My question: can he go back to the green because he's in the last group? Potentially, can he go back to the green and chip onto the green? I think I know the answer, but I'll leave it to you because you're the expert, Blakey.
Yeah, well, actually, I was just thinking, I'll digress slightly. Imagine if we did have a team of about, 10, 20 of us that could, at all times of the day, answer questions just like that. Anyway, that's something we can figure out in the future, possibly. But for Big P from Clubland, Rule 5.5 is where you want to be looking, and that talks about practice during a round. Now, obviously, you're not allowed to practice during play of a hole, but as soon as that hole is finished and before you tee off to start play of the next hole, there are certain or specific areas and specific types of shots that you are permitted to hit if you are practicing. And they are using the putting green of the last hole played. So Big P was on hole 9, or the tee off of the teeing area of hole 9. He could have practiced his putting or his chipping on the 8th green. Okay. He also could have practiced his putting or chipping on or near the 9th teeing area. And the other, or the last spot, is he could have practiced putting and chipping on any practice green on the course. However, you're not permitted to unduly delay play. Now at Box Hill, which Big P has mentioned he plays at as a regular of, the putting green, the practice putting green, is right above the green of the 6th hole, which is about 200 meters from the 9th teeing area. So walking up to that and then walking back, it's a possibility if there's two or three groups on the tee that he's waiting to hit off, but unlikely that you'd be doing it without delaying play. So probably best to just stick to the teeing area or the green of the last hole played, provided that no one else is playing up to it.
I find this is a very handy rule to know. I sort of fall into the same category as Big P, need to be sort of maintaining some feel around the short game area. So I do find myself having a practice if I get the opportunity just to, get that sort of flub chip out of my mind and sort of get some face on ball sort of action happening. So it is a handy one to know. And I do remember over the golfing journey as an adult, when I came back to the game of golf, being questioned on it a number of times, chipping and partaking in this rule, and people telling me, no, you can't practice on the course. And me going, no, yes, I can, because I know the rules. So it's a good one to know, because I think there's a lot of people out there that think that you can't practice on the course, so you can't practice on the course. Now, a couple of other situations, especially in and around Mornington, and I remember distinctly, once a playing partner played a provisional. He found both balls. The provisional that he played, which was a scungy second ball, was in the middle of the fairway, and his other ball was not too far away. He proceeded to hit the provisional ball into the water. So he turned around, didn't hit it in the direction of play, but he hit it from the fairway and hit it out into the Port Phillip Bay. Now, the question there was, is he practicing on the course?
You need to know what he actually is doing, what his intention was with regard to that ball. Was he practicing?
Well, That was the question, and his intention was, my intention was just to hit the ball into the water, so I'm not practicing. But you know, it wasn't me that asked the question, because I knew what he was just frustrated and he just whacked the ball into the water. But someone else, I think, in the group said, be careful not to practice while you're playing. Someone might pick you up on that.
Yeah, I mean, under 5.5a, it does state hitting a ball back to a practice area or to another player when done solely as a courtesy is not a practice stroke. And his intention was not to make a stroke at the provisional ball. He'd already found his original ball, and his original ball was the ball in play. I think the other player that mentioned it was correct in saying that could be misconstrued as a practice stroke, but it does come down to what the player's intentions were. He wasn't trying to make a practice stroke. He wasn't making an intentional stroke at his ball in play. He was just trying to get rid of his ugly ball. It does come down to his intentions. You'd probably almost just give him a warning and say, look, mate, that's which sounds like what the other player in the group did in the first place.
There you go. Interesting scenario that I've thrown up there, Blakey, without notice. Very good.
Probably an eye with that one, but no, it does, as I said, it does come down to the player's intentions.
So, well, it doesn't say in frustration there in the rules. So anyway,
no, then that's why you could actually say, there was no intention to hit the ball as his ball in play, so it can't be that. It just comes down to, making whether it was a practice or was he actually trying to practice. No, I was just getting rid of this. I was littering. Basically, I was littering.
I was hitting it to a fish in the thing, but I'm sure this situation probably does occur more often than we are aware of. Now, the other scenario that came out, and I remember it was in preparation for a district stroke event, Peninsula District Golf Association stroke event, and at Mornington, the putting green, the old putting green, there's a brand new Himalaya-style putting green down there, which you probably should go and see because it's beautiful. We were playing in a district stroke match, Peninsula District Golf Association stroke match. And as I mentioned, the Himalayas green, fantastic. You should go and see it. But the old green was quite small near the clubhouse, which wasn't too far from the 9th and 18th greens, also not too far from the 10th tee. And one of the young fellas from one of the other clubs, despite the fact that there was a sign there saying no chipping, was just got the lobby out and was just flop shotting some lob wedges onto the putting green, just practicing his chipping. Now, he was questioned that and told that he probably should stop the chipping on the course if he didn't want to be penalised or disqualified from the day's play. And there's another couple of areas between the other putting green, which is not too far from the 18th green, which is not too far from the second fairway, where some players do like to have a little bit of a chip because the practice fairway is 200 metres down the way. And once again, I've heard people say, you shouldn't be chipping there. That's practicing on the course before the club championships or the stroke or the monthly. You won't win the medal if you're chipping there. So what's the scenario there?
Yeah, thank you for throwing that one on me as well. So Rule 5.2 speaks about practicing on the course before a round or after a round if there's another round to be played on that course. So you're not permitted to practice on the course before a stroke play round, but a committee, and I think I've brought this one up before, a committee can specify a specific part on the course as a practice area. Now, at my course, the fantastic little 9-hole layout of Birregurra Golf Club, they don't have any practice facilities, so the chipping and putting green is the 9th green or the 18th green at 9th/18th. So you're allowed to practice on that green, even though that's going to be one of the greens or two of the greens. that we play, or one of the greens that we play twice, during the round that we're about to play, the committee have stipulated that everyone's allowed access to that spot. The rules around practice are on or near. If it gets a little bit too far, that's when the committee has to stipulate what on or near would be. At Big, another instance would be at Big P's course, at Box Hill. They have a chipping green down that runs just alongside the 10th and the 18th. When you're chipping around the chipping green, you can actually be on the course. The chipping green's out of bounds as it is, but you can actually be, hitting like a little 10-meter chip shot or 4-meter chip shot. You can actually be on the course. Again, it's for the committee to stipulate what is considered practicing on the course and what isn't, when you have those areas that could be bought in, could be ambiguous. So, I was working at a golf shop when I just first moved to Australia, and it was just a public course. Club played out of that, and they were playing club champs, and someone was hitting just what you were saying, just big sort of full flop shots, maybe 25 meters from the first tee, and someone arced up about it, and the committee said, "Oh, our hands are tied. The book says that that's practicing on the course, so you're DQ'd." And I think they were actually going to win. I think it might not have been club champs, it might have been a 4-ball championship, and they were going to win, and they would penalise 2 shots. Sorry, and it was just, you look back and now go, that's ridiculous. Like, he wasn't practicing around any green. He was on the side of the fairway, just 25 meters away from the first tee. The committee should have really stepped in and said that's not what we would consider practicing on the course.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered Big P's question. Not only have we answered his question, but we've added a few more scenarios to that. But
and some dogs.
And so, sorry about that. I'll try and edit that out. And
I wouldn't worry about it. Roscoe, we're talking about dogs. It's the dog episode.
It's a professional outfit here. Don't worry. Now, as we discussed at the start, we've got a couple of other things to talk about. Dropping the ball in the same area of the course. Now, when we talk about dropping the ball in the same area of the course, we talk about unplayable situations, penalty areas, and free relief. What are some of the things that we need to be aware of in those scenarios, Captain Blake?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've had a couple of queries about this on the socials, and thought I'd just try and, tell people some, what do you call it, like a re-reckoner type thing. Like if I'm, everyone thinks, it used to be, if it's penalty relief, you get 2 club links. If it's free relief, you get 1. That's not quite right. But if we go along those similar lines and have a little mental, can I drop here? Can I drop there? Let's, it might not be absolutely perfect, but this is a good thing to just think of when you need to drop it. So if you're going back to, if you're taking penalty relief and you're going back to your last place played, you basically have to drop it in the same area of the course. Okay. But outside of that, when you're taking penalty relief for an unplayable, you can basically drop it in any area of the course. Okay. And that includes a no play zone. So you can drop it in a no play zone. You just can't play it from a no play zone. So if the no play zone is if part of the relief area is in the no play zone, you can drop it in the no play zone. You're just not permitted to play from it. Go.
Can I ask a question on that? So, a no play zone might be, compulsory GUR, or it might be GUR, yeah? So
yeah, it used to be known as compulsory GUR. That's exactly right. It's the old term of compulsory GUR is now a no play zone.
So just to qualify, you're taking, unplayable relief, an area within where you can take relief is a no-play zone. So then you're entitled to take relief from the no-play zone.
Spot on.
So in some situations, you may be getting a much more advantageous position or place to play from. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you have to really use your imagination here. I haven't come across too many situations where dropping in a no-play zone and then taking free relief, no-play zone abnormal course condition, and then taking free relief from the no-play zone abnormal course condition gives you a better angle or a better lie, but it definitely, this is golf. It definitely could happen.
Yeah, definitely. I remember scenarios there where once again, having access to that information, like, taking unplayable, drop it on the path, and then, there's cart paths you can take relief from where I was playing. So unplayable onto the path. Yes.
Yep.
And then relief from the path, which then took you up onto a, tee box, tee area, and a much more clear spot.
Yep. Good idea. Good strategic dropping there, Roscoe.
But I remember I had to argue the point with one of my playing partners because they didn't believe that I could take a drop, which ostensibly now became 3 or 4 club lengths away. When they said, no, you should just drop it there. I said, no, here's my ball. I can drop it here. It's within the dropping area, and then I can take relief from the path over there. The same with casual water and things like that. You can drop it in the casual water and then get released in the casual water and then get a. So I get it.
Spot on. So when taking an unplayable, you can drop it in any area of the course under that option B and C. What I mean by any area of the course, you could drop your ball into a penalty area if you wished. You could drop your ball into a bunker. You could drop your ball, onto a teeing area if you wished. Okay, if you dropped your ball onto a teeing area under that back on the line, then now it's in the teeing area, you can tee it up.
Really?
Yep.
Even though you're not playing that hole?
Don't trick me like that. If you're not playing the hole, then that's not the teeing area.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Let's just call that what it used to be called, a teeing ground or the tee box of that hole. But the teeing area is a specific area, and you only ever have one of them when you're playing golf.
So, and the reason why, and sorry, I didn't mean to throw you there. I was just a bit. Hang on, I'm pretty sure I know that one. So the example that I just raised about the relief, unplayable relief onto a path and then taking relief up onto a tee, playing, it's actually the 17th at Mornington, and quite often in my left miss zone, there's a tree, path, tee. But then we talk about the 18th tee, and right next to that is a red staked penalty area. So, and it's quite close to the tee. So if you heel hosel one into the red penalty area, and you'll drop, is what you're saying, if you can drop it back within the defined area from the red stakes, and it is on the penalty, it's on the tee of the hole that you're playing, you can tee it back up.
Yes, but remember, you could also just go back to your teeing area for that situation anyway.
Fair enough.
But let's say you dribble one off the tee.
Yes.
Then you shank it.
Yes.
Then you got your 2 club lengths, and that gets you back into that teeing area. Yes, you could drop it within the teeing area.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And tee it up.
On that you drop it first, and then you tee it up.
But only on the hole that you're playing.
Yeah, there's only ever one teeing area, and that is on the hole that you're playing.
Okay.
Every other teeing area is not a teeing area. It's just general area until you start playing that hole that teeing area represents.
Well, I didn't know that, Blakey, that I could shank one into the tree on the right of the tee. I could squib it back and then put it back into an unplayable position and still be within that area, put it in a drop on the tee and then tee it up and then roost it again.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that it was going to happen, especially for a man of your talent. But it's available there.
You ever seen some of the golfers I play with, mate? You know, they might have had advantage of that had they known that. There we go. Very good. What else?
So that's the unplayable. And penalty area, if you're taking relief from a penalty area, again, going back to your previous place or your last place played, you have to stay in the same area of the course. But under your option 2 or option B, whatever it is, you can drop it in any area of the course except the same penalty area. So you could drop it in a different penalty area. You just can't drop it in the same penalty area. Okay, so basically unplayable, you can do anything you want. Penalty area, you've got one restriction. And now we get to free relief, and it has to be in the same area of the course. Okay.
Yep.
So if your ball is right on top of a bunker, and there's nowhere in which to take relief. This is 16.1, remember, not 16.3. There's nowhere to take relief. You're finding your nearest point of relief or nearest point of complete relief in that regard. So for an embedded ball, you don't find your nearest point of complete relief. It's just a spot directly behind the ball. Whereas for an abnormal course condition, you're finding your nearest point of complete relief. And from there, you have your one club length. That's why I tried to give this situation of just your ball just above a bunker, but it doesn't, your imagination would have to be as wild as mine to understand that. So, you know, you're finding your nearest point of complete relief where you're taking a stance and you know, the ball is in the same area of the course, and then you got your one club length from there.
Okay.
You couldn't drop it in the bunker.
Yeah, that's the question. So you can't drop it in the bunker and then play from there because that's within the area. But it
could possibly be within the relief area, but it's not the same part of the course, so you can't drop it in there.
Cool. Well, that's clear. Sorry if I was talking about penalty areas and unplayable in that example off the 18th tee at Mornington with the red stakes there. But okay, you described it. You recovered it very well. Thank you on my behalf for recovering mine.
Well, I think everyone needs to go and play Mornington and see how hard it would be to play to hit that shank shot.
He'll one into that.
Yeah,
on the left. Anyway, very good. That was good. So next on the rundown, so we've got an IVOR. You've been called on an IVOR. It's a fairly, you take these IVORs very seriously, but this one is very serious nature to you because it's a little bit technical. It's not really in the true tradition. See, that's almost an IVOR there. The true tradition of IVORs where we might call Camilo Villegas, Camilo Villegas, or vice versa. But where have you been alerted to an IVOR on yourself? I think you're currently at IVOR tally. I think it might be like 6-4. You 6, me 4. So you're winning so far.
Yeah, I don't think that's an award that I want to win. It's funny, when we did start the IVORs, you were of the view for you that an IVOR might be a mispronunciation. Whereas for me, I'm a Kiwi, so I know that I'm going to mispronounce everything. So for me, an IVOR was definitely going to be where I cocked up a rule. Okay. Now, that's definitely going to happen. I'm never going to say that I'm perfect in that regard. And it might just be it usually will be a slip of the tongue. But in this, I like to try and abbreviate some of the phrases in the rules of golf. And the one that I continually use is last edge crossed when talking about a penalty area. And my good friend David Grieve alerted me to the fact that if you think about the last edge crossed, that is the same as thinking about how long is a piece of string. You actually have to say the estimated point of the last edge crossed, which is a fair point he makes.
Okay.
because it needs to be a point. Like you can't go, oh well, it's this edge. It last cross this edge. Well, I get to go wherever I want within 2 club lengths and drop the ball. No, it has to be an estimated point on that edge that you work out your club lengths from.
Hence the reason why Lee Westwood at the Masters stuck a peg in the ground, so there was no question over the last edge crossed or the estimated edge, or whatever way you go with. Well, thank you, Mr. Brett.
That is spot on, and that is actually how it worked. I think that was the reason that I did the IVOR, because we were talking about Lee Westwood and Jason Kokrak nearly hitting Lee Westwood.
Speaking of Jason Kokrak, this week on the My Love of Golf podcast, just to interject and pump my own things, I interviewed a young man called Eric Sudransk. And if you're in the States listening to this, you might be aware of Member for a Day. And Eric's currently raising some funds by providing money can't buy golf experiences by amassing wonderful golf properties and people who are prepared to take people who are prepared to pay onto these golf properties. We're talking like National Golf Links of America. We're talking Shadow Creek. We're talking, you name it. And at the moment, he's got all these college coaches that are hosting people at their clubs, but he's also got Pat Perez and Jason Kokrak, who are going to take them to Shadow Creek. Now, he did an Instagram live with Pat Perez the other day, and Jason Kokrak was in the background and jumps in, and it's a really good conversation. It's very funny. Basically, you can imagine Pat Perez and Jason Kokrak just chatting on. So if you want to go and listen to Member for a Day, but also my Love of Golf podcast, young man doing some great things. Maybe one day we might get to the auspicious situation where we can raise some money for charity. Blakey, I know that you've got some charities and some areas of your life that you're very passionate about. So maybe one day we can start doing that. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm a big Beyond Blue fan about mental health, but we'll get to that one day, surely.
Maybe if someone wants to buy that, GRQ, what's that polo shirt? That GRQ sample prototype, early model GRQ polo shirt. Maybe some of the proceeds might go to something like that. That's an idea for you without notice again, Blakey.
Yeah, well, we put that out there on the podcast last week, and it's basically down to us, Roscoe, is to get it ready. We've got plenty of supporters wanting to get some merch off us. So, it's basically us wasting their time rather than the other way around.
Hat like this, I reckon someone would buy a hat like this with a nice badge like this. This one says Bushwood CC. Lots of things happen at Bushwood CC. Probably a lot of real scenarios and broglars happen at Bushwood CC. But if we had GRQ, GRQ.O.T.W, IVOR, whatever we have on there, I'm sure someone would want to buy that. Anyway.
What's the most famous quote from Bushwoods? And I don't. Is it that one? And I don't gamble.
No, wrong.
And I never bet or something.
Wrong person to ask there, Blakey. Sorry, I can't.
You haven't watched it?
I have, but I'm not good at recalling jokes.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
I'm just not me.
You're an original jokester.
I've got a picturesque mind. I've got a beautiful picture in my mind, as I do behind me, Blakey, to segue into background bingo. Now,
last week's
background bingo. No,
I don't know how he got it. Like how?
So, we'll wrap it up in a sec. But just to get to the point, how Andrew Millar. Let's tell everyone Andrew Millar's become a bit of a phenom about background bingo. He's obviously got it as his personal agenda to be the first one to pick the right two every week. But some of the lengths that he's now reporting to you that he's going to identify that my background last week was, in fact, Metropolitan, the wonderful golf property on the Sandbelt here of Metropolitan. There was a photo that I took after some corporate day or something. The sun was behind the tree, and it's a nice big tree. Tree features on the Metropolitan logo. I thought that might have been a giveaway. The other thing, there's a couple of trees. The buildings there might have been a giveaway. No, Andrew, it wasn't my house. No, far from the Flanagan residence there. But yeah, he did. What lengths did he go to identify Metro?
Yeah, so he got mine as well. Chisholm Links, which hosted a couple of PGA events in the early 2000s. That's down in Dunedin. So I think I've done 3 courses in Dunedin now. But you didn't even show a golf course. You just showed the clubhouse of Metropolitan. And so he searched for I think we might have snuck some clues out there talking about how it's such a good course. So he searched for top 10 golf courses in Australia. He searched for something, he didn't quite come up with something there. So he searched for something, he searched for top 10 clubhouses after that. And he said, after seeing the Metro clubhouse on the back of the 18th, he said, oh, that roof looks familiar. So he typed in Metropolitan and up came the front, front garden, near the car park with the tree, and Metropolitan, he sent it through to me. Unbelievable.
Well done, Andrew. Congrats, and thank you for your feedback. Scotsman down there in England, and spent some time in Edinburgh, and by all accounts is a passionate Heart of Midlothian fan, as am I. Go the Hearts in first division this year. We'll be back next year, don't worry. But yeah, it's always nice to have another Jambo listening in. Football, round, proper football, Blakey. Does
it have dimples?
No, it has
no dimples.
It's a round ball, and it's the beautiful game, and goes in the upper Benjamins or the top bins, that sort of thing. That's where you put.
Right.
But talking about football, this background bingo is from a country where football very much features. There's not too much there. You can see that there's a few people amassing around the side there. So obviously it's tournament conditions. So have a look at that one and see if you can pick that one. And Blakey, yours is a little bit obscure. I can see a nice little green hut. I can see the ocean. I can see some cliffs. It's not Mornington. I know that much.
Yeah, well, I've stayed in the same country as have done since I started doing background bingo. So that might be about 15 or 16 in a row, Roscoe. I've played on this course a fair few times, especially as a junior. The hint is that there is 4 holes across the road. So one side of the road, you have 14 holes. The other side is 4 holes. I think that's a fairly good hint to getting that one.
Sounds a little bit like Flinders, but it's not Flinders, obviously, because it's from another part of the world. But Flinders got a few holes on one side of a road and a few holes on the other side of the road, and sits up above the water, much like that. We'll have to go down there one day. We'll have to take golf rules questions on the road and go and do some situations down there in Flinders. I'm sure Mr. Poulton would have us down there. If you are listening, Mr. Poulton, please let us know, and we'll come down to Flinders anytime. Now, very good. Is that us?
Yep, we've just got the Golf Rules Questions of the Week, episode 18.
How could I forget? The Golf Rules Question of the Week. So what is this week's Golf Rules Question of the Week? We've got a couple here lined up. So here it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
You wrote it, so I hope you're ready. So when are you permitted to place your ball in the general area? Not replace, specifically place. There you go.
That's it.
So the easy one is under the local rule, but I want to hear the one that isn't under the local rule. So there we go. When are you permitted to place your ball in the general area? Place your ball in the general area. Not replace, specifically place. I'm sure there's some trickery behind your questions, Blakey, but
well, to be honest, I've given some easy ones because I've taken them straight out of the definitions. The reason that I take them straight out of the definitions is to try and get people to go to the definitions, because it's the most important part of the golf book, or the rules of golf book. This one, I've actually made a little bit harder. It's not a specific area that you're going to find it. You're just going to have to know the rules a little bit better.
Well, another test, another nugget, another bit of homework to round out this week's episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. It's been dogs on the golf course, dogs in the recording. I'll try and edit that out. Thanks for your patience. If you hear a little dog bark, it's only a little black thing that's a very yappy but a very beautiful little member of our household here. And Blakey, it's great to see you as always. I look forward to catching up with you very soon. And yeah, it's been a great episode. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, everyone, especially you, Roscoe.